Okay, hello everyone. First of all, I would like to say Scary Casco for having us here. We are so grateful for this opportunity to be able to meet people in the Basque country and talk to them about PAL, the Palestinian Animal League, and about our work in Palestine to protect the animals and to empower people. First of all, I'll hand over to my colleague, Ahmad Safi. By the way, I'm Ahlam Tarayra. I'm the executive director of the Palestinian Animal League. And Ahmad is the founder of PAL, and he's an animal rights activist in Palestine.
Hi, thank you. I am very amused about being in the Basque countries. You are very nice people. I feel that I am like my country, very welcoming, and I love the landscape, and I am in love with the sea and the way that you are living. So I will start. So if you look to the map in front of you, it is the map of Palestine. And we are based in West Bank. If you can see, this is and you can see also Gaza. This is where we are, a part of the world. Well, before 1967, in 1947, Palestine was all of these green areas. And before that, there was an announcement for Balfour, and he was one of the who established the Zionist movement in UK, in British, in United Kingdom. And he announced that we are going to give this land, while there is no people inside it, for a nation that it doesn't have a land. And after that, the immigration started from Europe, Russia, all around the world for small groups of Jewish people that they are coming to Palestine. And this group, I will tell you, we used to live, our community in Palestine where diversity, there is Jewish, there is Christian, and there is Muslims. But the newcomers that they came to Palestine during the migration, the big immigration before 1947, they start establishing a Zionist terrorist group like Balmach and other groups. And they start building the settlement. The first settlement that they built it in our country, it's called Beit Tikfa, the key of the hope. And they start attacking the Palestinian villages. During that period of time, we are under the British mandate. After the British mandate, they announced that we will give our rules to the Israelis, and with the UN resolutions that they announced that we will give the independence for the state of Israel, and nothing mentioned have been for Palestine. During this area, during this period, 1947, 700,000 Palestinians have been pushed to leave all of the areas from the coast. If you can see the Mediterranean coast on the right side of the picture, the people who were in the north have been forced to go out to Lebanon and Syria. The people who were in the south have been going to Egypt, and some of them in Gaza. The people in middle go to Jordan and in West Bank. It was, and there was the UN resolution about dividing this place in the world. You know that Palestine is about 2,700,000 kilometers. It is a very small country, very, very small. And if you see in the second map that the green area, it is what UN United Nations decide this is how the shape of the state. The yellow one will be for the Israelis, and the green one will be for the Palestinian. This is after the migration. The people, the 700,000 Palestinians who have been kicked out from their villages, are now without places, and they are become now refugees. And we call this big immigrations for the Palestinian Nakba, catastrophe. This is what we called it. In 1967, it was not enough. During that time, West Bank, if you can see in the third picture, West Bank was with a confederal rule with Jordanian, and Gaza Strip was with a confederal rule with Egypt. But Israelis was not accepted that we are able to live without under the occupation. So they took the rest of the land, and it became what we called it Naksa, and the Palestinians who were living in this area also moved again, and Naksa is the second collapse. Yeah, the second collapse. Okay, each time and after each period of time, after each generation, we think that it is enough, but it was not enough. In 2000, we became, if you can see, the small green areas in the last map. This is where we come from. Well, this area that we are living in, as you saw in the last picture, is disconnected. It is like small cantons, and it is controlled by the Israelis all around, and all of the network that we are moving in this area, all of the street network, all of the connections between all of these cities are controlled by the Israelis and full of checkpoints. So we don't have the accessibility to move from cities to another cities without the permission or without access to checkpoint. And the other things is very important that we have to talk about, that we don't have any rule on the borders, even with Jordan or even with Egypt or even with anything, that we are not controlling any borders with all of the neighbors that we are able, and we are not able even to go to Jerusalem while it is considered part of Israel, even the East Jerusalem, and we are not able even to go to Gaza, and even the people from Gaza are not allowed to come to Palestine, to West Bank. Well, and now we are talking about the situation about the green areas that we are talking about, what is going about. We have been separated for 3 areas, which is Area A, that we have full rule, security and socially for the Palestinian Authority, but this is not accurate, because whenever they want to enter Area A that they can, and recently they have been following and checking and demolish some houses in Area A, the Israelis. And there is Area B, which is under the control of socially for the Palestinian Authority, but security for the Israelis. And it is about 20% of the West Bank. Area A is 17% of the West Bank. But the rest is Area C, which is the full control for the Israelis, about 62% of the West Bank. But it was not enough, as we can see in these pictures. Israel is still kicking the people from these areas, and we will see after that displacement of the people in this area still in many times about destroying the houses, about that we are not allowed to build, we are not about to have any construction without a permission from the Israelis. And even if we try to build, they will destroy it. Any kind of change that we can make it on the ground, it is not allowed from the Israelis. It was not enough for the Israelis. In 2003, they start building the apartheid wall. The apartheid wall, as you can see, it is surrounding all of the West Bank, and it is preventing people from the freedom of movements. And if you can imagine, I don't know, it is something like the wall between West Berlin and East Berlin. And this will have two kinds of impacts. The first impact about the human, that there is a lot of restriction about the movement. It is 8 meters high, and a lot of sensors, a lot of cameras, a lot of high technology that doesn't allow for the people to move from this area and across it. It disconnects the people from their families, from their land, and they are not able even to go to plant their land. Some of the reasons that you can hear that one of the most important reasons for Israel during that time to build the wall, it is for security issues. But that's not true, because there is a lot of benefits from it for them. They confiscate more of the agricultural land, and they are controlling more of the water resources that it is in West Bank. And the other things that we are talking about, they start finding gas inside the ground, and they are taking it and putting it behind the wall. Well, and we are talking about the wall about the environment, the landscape and the geographical situation, the geography of Palestine. It is diverse from Jordan Valley, which is about 340 meters under the sea level. It is the lowest point of the air, and we are going to the middle, to the mountains, which is about 120 meters above the sea level, and then the coast. And there is a natural movement for the wildlife in Palestine during the seasons, and based off searching for water resources and searching for food, and this will are preventing these animals at the same are preventing the humans also to move, and freedom of movement, and to communicate with the natures. This is about West Bank. So let's talk about Gaza. It is different, and totally different about what you can imagine. 4 hours only that they can be able to have access for electricity. About 300 kind of material is not allowed to be entered to Gaza, and sometimes like some kind of paints, a lot of cement, construction material is not allowed to enter without supervision of the Israelis and United Nations to Gaza. 11 years was when Gaza under the siege, and there was no access for anything, to be out in Gaza, only through 2 checkpoints, which is Erz and Bet Salim, Kerem Salim. The other access for Gaza, if you can see, in the last maps, for the other world, is to go to Egypt, and it is also closed because Egyptian and Israelis. So we don't have. It is like a big open jail. The unemployment in Gaza reach about 48% of the population, and the poverty, how many?
80% of
80% of the families in Gaza are unable to find food resources, and 72% of them of Gazan are refugees. And if I would like to say something, in Gaza is the highest density on the whole world. That there is 2 million Palestinians are living in living about 35-40 kilometers squared.
How many people?
2 millions. You can cut the north of Gaza to the south in 1 hour, and you can cut it from the middle about 30 minutes. Well, we are talking now about Area C and Area A. As you can see, the red area, we are only to Area B, if you can see, Area A, if you can see the map, it is the brown area. And this is only like the cantons that we are living on. Red area, if you can see it, it is Israeli training, Israeli army training zones, and it's most in the Jordan Valley, and it has a huge effect on the wildlife, animals, and the humans. Many times we hear that there is some people have been killed or some animals have been also killed because of the waste of the armies in this area. The rest of the areas that you can see is area B and C, and and those people who are about 300,000 Palestinian who are living in this area are not in the safe situation that they are forced to be kicked out from these areas. Well, if you can see this picture, this is a comparison and contrast. This is how the people live, the Palestinians who are living in Area C. If you can see, these Bedouins are threat and always threat to kicked out from the area. And if you can see in the top of the mountain, there is the settlements that they are building, even in the settlement, colonialist settlement, that they built it in Area C. $250,000 settlement in West Bank. 250 settlement in West Bank, as contain about 700,000 settlers. And if you can see all of the yellow dots in the map, the blue dots in the map, it is the settlement that we are talking about. And if you can see also in the map that there is something on the ground, that they are creating a line of settlement to prevent any access in the future for any kind of solution that we can able to have rules in the borders. So in the Jordan Valley, we can see in the left, and around Jerusalem in the middle. In this settlement, there is something very important also. It is not only confiscating land and taking the land of the people by force. Also, they are built an industrial zone, which is not allowed for this industrial zone to work inside the Israeli cities, so they put it in the settlement, and they don't treat the wastes of this industrial zone, which affect a lot of problem for the environment and for the wildlife. If you can see in these pictures that they only dropped all of their waste in our lands and in our areas without any treatment. There is another environmental problems that about the animals. If we can see, wild boars is not originally from our wildlife nature. During the second Intifada, Israelis start distributed the wild boars in some areas because the fighters were hidden in the mountain during that time. So they use it as a biological weapons that they can be a threat for the freedom fighters in this area, in the West Bank. This is from the security part, and also from economical part. They put the wild boars in the agricultural area, like Safi, Tubas, it is in the north, where there is a lot of water resources in these areas and very fertile soil. And it is one of their ways to destroy our grassroots economies that we are dependent on, and push us to be unindependent, to have our own resources. The other thing is about the retired dogs. We have three kinds of dogs in Palestine. We are talking about the stray dogs that they are living in the cities. We have the wild dogs who are living in the mountain, and we have the retired dogs and feral dogs. Yeah, and we have the retired dogs and the guarding dogs that they are distributed around the settlement, that the Israelis distributed and leave it around the settlement, and they kept it. And those dogs are very dangerous for the farmers and for the people who are living around, and they are using it to guard the settlement on around.
This infographic gives a good example. So this is a comparison between London and Ramallah city, which is located in the West Bank. And we can see that the rainfall in the annual rainfall in Ramallah is actually bigger than the annual rainfall in London. But as you can see that all the water, all the rainfall in London goes to the UK water resources, while on the other hand, the majority of the rainfall of Ramallah city, the Palestinian city, goes to the Israeli water resources, and a little bit of it just goes to the Palestinian water resources. And just to make it clear why is that and how it's done, only 1% of Area C, which is the majority of the land in the West Bank, only 1% is allowed for the Palestinians to make any kind of construction, while the 99% we cannot do any kind of construction in this area, which means that anything under the surface with 30 centimeters or up like on the surface of the land of 30 centimeters, we cannot do it, and it is considered to be a construction. So, of course, water cisterns and wells are not allowed to be done to collect the rainfall. So even if I'm a farmer, a Palestinian farmer, and I have a land in Area C, I cannot collect rainfall. And it's against the law, and they will come and demolish the system. So this is a statistics by 2017. Of course, it would be more now. So 161 water-related structure was demolished in Area C between 2009 and 2017. Before we go on, I think Ahmad has a live example of our work during the past years about like some actually real example of our work when we were faced of the reality that we cannot do any kind of construction. The Bedouin example.
Well, we have been working with the Bedouins about the donkeys, and they are using the donkeys in Jordan valleys to carry the tourists from place to place. And we find that there is a lot of welcoming from the Bedouins to change the situation and the life of the donkeys in this area. And we have been changing a lot, and we are offering a lot of treatments and changing also the ideas how the traditional treatment that they have been used for many years ago. And then we have reached the problem that we are going to find a shade for the animal and for you also, because in this area it is in the middle of the desert, and the temperature reach between 40 and sometimes 45, sometimes 48 degrees in the summer. So we decide to put shades in the area for both. Then we find that it is illegal to put these shades from the Israeli government in this area because they announced that it is a natural resort. Okay, we said we can find another alternative, that let's try to plant the trees, and we can find a system to irrigate it from the water resources in the area, to irrigate these trees. But we find also that it is not allowed for us to plant the trees, and the reason in this area that it is not allowed, that they claim that we are changing the landscape of the areas by building the trees. So this is one of the things that we were talking about. Now we are talking about, we finished talking about the political situation, but we will not finish actually, because everything belongs to the situation it is, but we will talk about how Bell have been started. In 2011, we start thinking what kind of the things that we don't want the new generation to pass, and we have passed it before. So we start thinking about to break the cycle of violence. If you can see in these pictures, this kind of oppression and tortures that our kids living under the occupation. And there is this idea that we are always talking about, that we normalize the violence, we normalize it and we accept it against us. And we are talking about normalizing the violence. When you are beaten like this by the soldiers, you come to the kid and you can say to him, be strong, be a man, like you have to survive and you have to deal with this, but you cannot come to say to him why this is happening. You wish him to accept what is happening to him. But in the other context, if this kid were hurting another kid or hurting an animal, you will come to him and say to him, no, stop, what you are doing. And then he will be in something here in his brain that, why you accept the violence against me and you didn't accept when I doing the violence, like who I am. Then we were thinking about, in the beginning, to be honest, we were not thinking about animal rights movement in Palestine. We were thinking only to teach the kids how to be responsible about themselves, how to find their own rules, and how to find like a time or a rule inside our community in a refugees camp which is full of young people, and if you are not able to prove yourself or to do something, you will be not able to say no for anyone, and you will find that you are out and in the margin in this community. So this is the things that we were talking about. After that, we start thinking about, come on, there is a lot of problem also with the kids, and there is a lot of problem with the animals. And all are suffering. And in the beginning, when we start BAL, the people think, when we register it as an animal rights organization, the people think, what are you doing? Did you finish all of the human rights issues and now you are coming to think about animal rights? They think that we are carrying a Western ideas. We said no. And we, and all of us, we didn't sacrifice all of the sacrificing. We didn't spend all of these years in the jail, and we didn't, all of those martyrs and all of those people who are injured and become handicapped. And what kind of the state that you are looking after, where you can respect all of the beings. And Palestine is not only you as a human. If you want to consider Palestine as you as a human, you can build Palestine in Argentina or in UK or any other ways in the world. But Palestine, with all of the beings who are living in, is one part. So you have to defend Palestine with all of the part of it, including the landscape, including the trees, including the other beings who are living. And while we think that we are the smartest people in this country, so we have a responsibility, but we don't have excuses because we are under occupation to abuse these animals. And this is the idea that we were thinking about during, then we start distribute our work to other fields. And I will tell you something, maybe when I met one of the friends who are here, I have a problem with the definition about animal rights and animal welfare. And I didn't know even the definition about them. And I was trying to get some fund from those people who were some in Luxembourg. And they said, no, your project is animal welfare. I said, come on, what is the animal welfare? He said, no, we are only donating for animal rights projects. I said, what is the difference? What are you talking about? And then they start analyzing for me the difference, and to be honest, I was pissed off, because you cannot come and tell me that while I'm working in this area in Palestine, or like we are working under the level or in the bottom, that you start thinking about distinguish if it is animal right or animal welfare project. We are trying to improve the life of beings. It doesn't matter what you are talking about in the lectures or in the studies and what kind of the beings, but we are working in the possible way. In this year exactly, we are talking also about stereotype, and it is very important that I would like to mention this. I was going to Luxembourg through Frankfurt. I don't know if you, Louis, heard this story. And the police in Frankfurt airport stopped me, and they said to me, give me 5 minutes and we will come back to you. Okay, when he come back, he take me to the police office inside the airport. And I was wondering, what is going on? What is going on? I didn't accept this, and we were in the fight, talking. Why you are hosting me? After 2 hours from negotiating, I will come back to you, and I will come back to you, come on. I said to him, either you return me back to Jordan, because we travel through Jordan to Palestine, from Jordan to here, if we want to travel, or either you can let me in. And he said to me, no, I have the right to host you here for 24 hours without any accuse. I said to him, why? What is going on? What is happening? He said, what do you want me to think about 2 Palestinian men are come and thinking about animal rights movement? And it is also pissed me off. This is, look how they are stereotyping Palestinian, and how they are giving you, like, they put you in this corner and they said to you, why you are this, why you are like this. So this kind of the things that we were talking about, how to improve, like, we are Palestinian, we are going to, like, this is who we are and this is what we act, but it doesn't matter how you see me unless you treat me well. And this now, Ahlam will start talking about the other stuff that we are talking, and we will continue after that about many stories happened.
So the Palestinian Animal League works within a complex political situation or context, while we are also faced with cultural and legal constraints or obstacles. We can just give a brief about each point that is, as you can see in this slide, starting from the legal vacuum. What we mean by the legal vacuum is that until this moment, we do not have an animal rights or an animal welfare code or law in Palestine, which means that we cannot sue any company or any person who abuses animals. This, of course, led to many problems that we are facing, including the inhumane stray animals populations treatment in Palestine. And I want to mention here that we have a large population of stray dogs in Palestinian territories, and until this very moment, the Palestinian municipalities deal with the problem by either shooting or by poisoning the animals. And we, as animal protection organization, we cannot do anything about it legally, I mean. In this context, also, as maybe some of you already know, that we had a political division between the West Bank and Gaza since 11 years ago. And since then, we do not have a Palestinian Legislative Council functioning. So no laws can be issued in this manner while we have this functioning Palestinian Legislative Council. On the other hand, we have some cultural misconceptions that also play as a barrier to our work. For example, many people in the Palestinian consider dogs as unclean animals. And also, we, as people who are interested in the animal protection movement, we are like the first and only animal protection organization in Palestine, which means that everything is done in this field in the Palestinian territories is just new, even new to us. So the lack of expertise and resources is a main issue. So as Ahmad has already pointed out in his speech, when we talk about ourselves as an intersectional organization, we are being faced with a backlash from our people by this big question like, are you serious? Are you talking about animal rights now, while we are having our land still occupied by Israel? So we should focus on land liberation as our main priority and then think about other priorities. Also, the human rights reality with all the exploitation of the occupation, with all the human rights violations that we are experiencing. So you should focus on that before thinking about animals. Also, we have some religious misconceptions that we as PAL believe that they are not true, and that if you read religion and if you understand religion well, you would disregard these misconceptions. We also faced with this backlash of that animal rights is a luxury that we cannot, as Palestinian people, afford. But when we just highlight the fact that actually PAL idea emerged in a refugee camp, people would stop saying that this. Like, we are not rich people, we're not just people who do not have other things to do, so they just, okay, let's care about animals. And of course, this Western agenda idea that we are just using, or we are just being concerned about animals as a way to distract people from the main cause, which is land liberation. So our starting points were by just realizing and believing that all forms of oppression are interconnected, and that you cannot separate the causes from each other, and you cannot work on these causes separately. So if we want to improve the physical and cultural environment for everyone, then we should work equally on those causes. And this, of course, needs from us to going back to roots. To answer the question, where exactly things went wrong. And this led us to think about to highlight the colonial legacy and the impact of the prolonged Israeli occupation. So, for example, we have a rich heritage, books, stories about the old Islamic society that proves that actually the Islamic society, even in the golden era of the Islamic nation, so to say, was actually more secular than our societies nowadays. And if we dig out the history, we could find that our societies in the past weren't actually homophobic societies. So where did homophobia come from? And we could see that actually it started from the colonial time and it lasted afterwards. On the other hand, the prolonged Israeli occupation, the policies, the human rights violations, the violations even against animals in Palestine, would also, or has actually, made us as Palestinians just preoccupied with the idea of how just to survive this, just to think about surviving what is happening to us. Also, the starting points were just to work with our people, to empower our people, especially the young generations, to work with them to introduce humane education, just to challenge the reality that we have. And we could see that it actually paying off eventually. So this is a poster that we, for example, published on our Facebook page, amongst other many posters. It says that we also have families, just like you. The small photo here was sent to us on our Facebook page by a lady in Ramallah. She befriended this stray dog, and she started to give him food, and even she provided a little bit of a shelter for him. So we could see that people are engaging, people are actually sharing experiences of how this humane education and awareness is actually changing the mind of people and the way that they are dealing with animals. These are pictures also. This picture was sent to us by a young lady. She's a school student. She built a kind of home for the stray cats in winter. And she sent us this photo just to show us that this is an idea, which actually emerged also as an idea of the Youth for Change program that Ahmad would be talking about a little bit. And the other picture, it's a session that for young people and for families, for Palestinian families, about our dog, about the street dogs. The baladi dogs, we call it. So it's just a dog you can love, you can be friend with, and it's very intelligent, it's very protective, and you can actually have it as a companion at home. When it comes to veganism and promoting veganism in Palestine, we also have a lot of criticism on it, mainly by being accused of manipulating the religious rituals. And by here, I mean exactly, we were talking about this sacrificing animals during the big feast in Islam, and we challenged that by saying and by publishing an article, a detailed article about the idea of why sacrificing animals, and like during the old context 1,400 years ago, and the context that we are having nowadays. And if the idea about helping, about like sacrificing animals to help the poor with food, then we should think it over again. Also, the question of what to eat. If I stopped eating animal products and if I stopped eating meat, then what is left for me to eat? This is, I think this is a question everywhere, it's not only in Palestine. Also, maybe the other two last points is about the protein and B12 deficiency. It's like whenever you tell people that I'm vegan, they would be really worried about your health, about your protein daily intake, and how do you get your B12, and so on. Also, many people would say we are made to eat animals. We are just, it's the way we are created. You cannot change that. And another important thing is about the traditional norms in Palestine. So actually, serving meat is something related with, or like associated with being generous. So especially at weddings, at big dinners or lunches, so you cannot invite people and serve them food without meat. It's like something that you be ashamed of. So you should serve meat, and many people would serve red meat because it's more expensive, and by this you are just showing your guests that you're respecting them and you're serving them expensive food. So the starting point with how to promote veganism in Palestine, we just again thought that we should going back to roots. Actually, our Palestinian cuisine was mainly vegetarian. Our grandparents were, most of the year were vegetarian. Many, or like a large part of our Palestinian cuisine is actually vegan. So when exactly people started to add meat to every single recipe, also we highlighted, we are trying to highlight the current situation of the farmed animals, even if it's like for meat or for dairy, eggs industries, and just to highlight the fact that this is not religious, this is not Islamic. If we talk about the old context, there was like a little bit of natural relationship between humans and animals back then. Every person would be having some animals, they look after them, and the animals give them back. They weren't separating children from their mothers. They weren't stealing the milk of the children. They barely, maybe once a year, they would consume red meat. Every 4 months, they would consume a chicken. So it was a kind of natural relationship in some way. Now, this choice is not available. We are consuming meat, eggs, dairy from farms, where the situation is horrible in so many ways. So how come you could tell me that this is religious, or God is pleased by this? So we also talked about alternatives to sacrificing animals by highlighting the fact that the meat, dairy, eggs industries are actually a main cause of poverty worldwide. So if you care for the poor, you should stop consuming animal products, if you really care about the poor. And on the other hand, like it's known that when you slaughter an animal during the feast, you'd give like a poor family 1 kilogram of red meat. So what would a 1 kilogram of red meat do to a family of 7 or 8 people? Would it be sufficient for them, like for even one meal? But with the same amount of money that this 1 kilogram costs you, if you provide plant-based food, you'd feed a poor family for at least 1 week. The good thing about this is that when we published this article, it went viral. Many people read it, Palestinian people. We got positive feedback, we got negative feedback, but the promising thing that we got feedback from even religious people, educated people. They said that actually this makes sense. If we are talking about a new perspective, a new Islamic perspective into this, this actually makes more sense than the old perspective. Now I'll hand over again to Ahmad. I promise you it's only 2 slides left. So Ahmad will be just talking about our current activities inside Palestine and outside Palestine.
Well, I would like to talk first while we are sitting with the volunteers and we were thinking about what kind of the things and where we are going. Then many times we were thinking, shall we treat the symptoms of the problems, or we shall work on the cause of the symptoms of the problem? And well, if we want to treat the symptoms, that we can put all of our attention, all of our resources to rescue a dog from here or to rescue a cat from there, but there is still the problem, it still exists. So we were thinking that we can do both. We have to work about the causes, which is the humans, and we have to work on them and try to change the behaviors, and it will take time, but we can see that there is a lot of changes are happening, and we can work also about the services that we offer it. And we cannot separate both like the problem with the human and separate the two reasons for the two causes of the problem, that the animals and the human. So as you can see in the picture, this is the vet clinic that we have been opening recently, and we offer free treatments for stray animals. We rescue some animals and we offer them for adoptions for the homes after they get treatment. And we offer also very cheap vet services for the animal owners, so they will not think, and for the pets, they will not think that it is weird to take my animal to the doctor while I cannot, or to buy a medicine while I cannot take or pay the cost of my son to go to the doctor. So we offer veterinary service that we can help the animals in the community. And if you can see the other project, now we will not talk about working with the human now, but we will keep talking about working with the animals. The other project that we are working on now, that we are trying to promote adoptions. There is a mission that we are doing now. It is a petition that we are gathering a lot of signatures. Until now we are gathering about 2,500 signatures inside Palestine to close the pet shop, because one of our main goals that we can close this pet shop and push the people, like convince the people to start adopting animals. And it is like anywhere else, that the clean breed dogs like German Shepherd or I don't know, the rest of the animal are like better than the stray animals. They think that it is better. This is like everywhere. But this is what we are doing, and after that we will go to the government side for the municipalities, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Local Governance, so we can make this effect and to push to close this places. And the other things that we are doing with the other thing that we the kids, the initiatives, it's come from a project, because we have a project called Youth for Change, and we are working with university students. We give them a training of trainer, TOT, and we give them skills, how to communicate with kids. We give them a lot of information about animal rights, about environment, about the things are related, and we give them the freedom to choose a group of kids from their communities, and they start give them first the training, and after the training they have to come out with any initiatives. And we don't intervene with any initiatives. They are very free, and this is the base things that give the kids the chance to think, and give them also the way how to think, because we are not cruel, and our kids are not cruel, because and they are influenced by the animal. And this is one of the initiatives that the kids have been building houses for the stray cats, and they cover it with plastic during the winter. And one of the initiatives 2 years ago from also the kids, that they were thinking that one day after we will graduate, we need a place that we can eat a vegan food. And they start thinking about making this inside one of the university, and we succeed to do it in Al-Quds University, and it was under the name of Sudfa. But we couldn't continue this project because many obstacles in this, and now we are planning to do another project. We have like some of the ideas that to make plastic, instead of the plastic bags, we can make like cotton bags, vegan days in the cafeteria of the schools, and some other activities that they are working on. Well, also we are about the services. While we are working with working animal, it is another project that we are working with them, donkeys, with the Bedouins, and horses in the horse riding school, and also the rest of the animal in the farming. We were thinking that there is a lot of needs that we have to intervene in the situation that they are living, and we find that there is a lot of acceptance from the farmers or the other owners of the working animals that they want to change. And we find that the main problem is the lack of awareness, because like to keep the animal in the sun, because yeah, he is used to and he can, but there is there is many symptoms that no, he is now tired from this. And when they start listening to this, they start making a lot of changes about the way of living. We found that there is a problem that we don't hoofers, like a good hoofers, that they can work with the hooves for the horses, and like you fix the hoof based on the metal thing that you put it. Then we start working with the hoofers about all of these issues, and we have a manual now. And this manual with our volunteers and the vets are visiting the communities and distributed and talking about the welfare of working animal. Also, some part of this manual with the Ministry of Agriculture. We have a good relation with the Ministry of Agriculture and other formal bodies inside the Palestinian Authority, that they are using it to distribute it to the veterinary department in all of the district in West Bank. This is about the animal, and now we will talk about our international relation. And we were thinking that it is very important to have international supporters, not only for gathering funds, but also to change the way that, or the stereotyping that the way that the people look about us. We have, in 2014, there was, during the war in Gaza, the animal in the zoo, it's called Khan Yunis Zoo, have been died because of the hunger and thirsty. Daily Mail and some other huge newspaper and other medias, they were say that the most exotic zoo in the world, and they kept animal to be died from hunger. They didn't offer food, but none of them have mentioned why. And it is very important to use us as accused to gather fund. This is, in my opinion, because now we will talk about how we are as a Palestinian think that we are exotic, and we are stereotyping, and we are in this corner, and this is the way that we have to act. And if we act out of the way that we are, so it will be something weird for you, for the people who are thinking and put us in the box. So in this zoo, no one mentioned that in 51 days of bombing Gaza, and no one where have been able to move in the street, and anyone who cannot run, he will die, and no one mentioned this. And there is this organization, and I will mention it for you now. It's called Barefooted for Bows, if you heard about it. They come, and we were exist, and we were trying to find after the war end, and we try to find a way to rescue the rest of a live animal from the zoo. And we were working hard, and even the owner of the zoo were also working hard. He said, I cannot deal with this, and I don't need animal, and I need to take them off somewhere safe.
Sorry, come again, the last two sentences?
He was saying that I will not working anymore, and I will not take responsibility about the animals. I want to send them to some place are safe for them. So, financially, we were able to rescue the animal. But do you know, if you go to Verfooting website, they put a huge thank, very huge thankful. And there is a picture for the employee of Verfooting organization are shaking hand with the Israeli soldiers who are working in the checkpoint because they allowed for them to take the animal out of the zoo. But no one said that also the human are not allowed also to go out to have a treatment also. We are happy that we could rescue the animals, but it is how the way that they are dealing with us. And we have a lot of problems with, yes, very slow, yes. So in this way we are thinking that so what we were thinking that, what is Palestine for you? It is like such a way of Orientalism to think about Palestine like in this way that I don't know how. And also today I was talking about that we are Palestinian, Arabs and Muslims. And if anyone who did something wrong, let's say in Spain, if someone in Spain, and he is Muslim, he committed something wrong to animal, they will say Muslims do it. Look how Muslims are doing this, Arabs doing this. But if someone do this and his narratives, his background that not Muslims or Arabs or Palestinian, they will say X did 1, 2, 3, 4, and they didn't generalize that all of the Muslims, because we were reviewing all of the materials in the medias about sacrificing, about how to dealing with the animals, and there are like a lot of misunderstanding about stereotyping us and put us in, and they want us to be in the same way. So what we are doing, we are making a tours first to fight the vegan washing that Israel are doing. We are making these tours, and we have a lot of solidarity groups, and this tour are by the solidarity group in Spain. We have also solidarity group in Brazil, USA, Canada, Italy, France, Australia, Sweden. We have been in Sweden, and we are going everywhere to start talking about the situation in Palestine and activism, and also talk about that we are under this kind of situation, we are able to do something, and why you are not, sorry to say this, but why you are not able to do this, and why you are, I don't mean you, I mean, yeah, because you are here, yeah. So why you are not able, like why we are not trying all together, and why we are not putting our hand together and start doing something everywhere together. And this is this is the activities that we are doing, and also we are fighting boycott. We are a part of the boycott movement of Israel, and this is internationally.
So